2021 at 7 p.m. via teleconference. As chairman of the Budget Review Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I'm confirming that we are providing access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or other electronic means. To access Zoom, please refer to the agenda or the city's website for the meeting link. To join by phone, dial 1-929-205-6099. The meeting ID is 865-3917-2794. And the passcode is 854678. The public may also view the meeting via channel 16. We previously gave notice to the public for the necessary information for accessing the meeting through the public postings. Instructions have also been posted on the City of Nashua's website at www.nashuanh.gov and publicly noticed at City Hall and the Nashua Public Library. If anyone has a problem accessing the meeting via phone or channel 16, please call 603-821-2049 and they will help you connect. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting via the methods mentioned above, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during the meeting shall be done by roll call vote. We will start the meeting by having the secretary or clerk to call the roll. Alderman O'Brien, if you would call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do appreciate clerk more than secretary, but
yeah, I knew that as soon as I said it.
That's quite all right, brother. Quite all right. Alderman at large, Shoshana Kelly. Yeah, Alderman at large, Michael O'Brien is present. I am alone and I can hear the proceedings. Alderman at large, Laurie Wilshire.
I'm here. I can hear everyone and I'm alone.
Alderman Ernest Jetty.
I'm here alone and I can hear the proceedings.
Alderman Jan Schmidt.
I'm present, alone, and can hear everyone.
Alderman at large, Ben Clemens. And Alderman Richard Dowd, our chairman.
Yes, I'm present. I can hear the proceedings and I am here alone.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 members present. Also here this evening is Sarah Marchant, Community Development Director, and Tim Cummings, Economic Development Director. And also we have Alderman Patricia Clay, Mayor Jim Donchis, and anybody else?
Kim Kleiner just joined.
Kim Kleiner, very good, is also here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anybody from the public that would like to address the Budget Committee on anything being discussed this evening? Hearing and seeing no one, we'll move on. Communications,
There are none.
unfinished business,
There is none.
new business resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before us this evening is Resolution -21-111, authorizing the city of Nashua to enter into an amendment to the agreement with the Fuel Media Holdings for advertising services. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make the motion to recommend final passage by roll call.
Okay, the motion is to recommend final passage of R21-111. I believe Director Marchand wanted to speak to this.
Good evening, thank you. We are before you with this amendment to the contract for the fuel advertising services based on COVID and the unexpected and unprecedented changes to the industry. As such, in 2020, when we entered into contract with fuel, for the first time ever, we had put an annual minimum amount of payment to be required each year that they would have to produce. That was well before COVID started. And since then, our revenues have gone down by half. And we haven't even made the money that, or in total, that we would have, that they would have had to pay us. The contract is a 65-35. And so what we are asking for is for this year alone is to remove the minimum payment. We would still get the 65% of every ad sold, which is important matching dollars for our federal funds, and is the more traditional way our contracts have been structured. And our hope is that by the end of this year, the world will have righted itself a little bit more so that we can get closer to our required minimums. In addition, we have agreed to some basic performance measures with our advertising agency, Fuel, who has really been stepping it up and doing a great job trying to break into new markets and help us expand our reach that way. So happy to answer
So
any questions.
just for clarification for the general public, this is already passed. We are now just going to allow an amendment that addresses what you just discussed.
That is correct.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing no one. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Schmidt,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie,
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire,
Yes.
the clerk, Alderman O'Brien votes yes. Alderman Dowd.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman, 5 yeas, 0 nays.
motion carries. Thank you, Director Marchand. New business ordinances.
There are none.
Okay, we have one item that was tabled in committee that I'd like to entertain a motion to take from the table. That's R-20-028. And
Okay.
then we'll have Director Cummings talk to us on it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make the motion to take resolution -20-028
From the
to
table.
remove it from the table and by roll call.
Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Alderman Schmidt,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie,
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien votes yes. Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, motion passes 5-0.
Okay, R-20-026 as amended is taken from the table. Do I hear a motion, Alderman O'Brien?
Yes, you do. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to amend R-20-28 as presented by Attorney Leonard and by Director Cummings by roll call.
Okay, you've heard the motion. I see the mayor's here. Tim, are you going to take it for discussion? Okay.
If it's the pleasure of the committee and the mayor, what I would recommend is if I could just very quickly go through my PowerPoint. I promise to keep it to less than 2 minutes and then turn it over to the mayor so the mayor could say a few words if that's the pleasure of the committee.
Okay, you already have authority to share your screen, so go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you. And for the record, Tim Cummings, Director of Economic Development. With me this evening is Peter Floats, the developer interested in developing the School Street lot. And he's here to answer any technical questions that may arise. Bear with me. I am going to try to share my screen here. Okay, and I know folks prefer not to have the screen share up, so I will try to just quickly run through my slides here and then take my screen share down. So
Yeah, full screen on the presentation.
yes, I am getting there right now. So again, just to remind everyone, we're talking about the School Street development. This is a project that has been before you for quite a few years now, and then actively with a piece of legislation for the last year or so. We're looking to develop this particular parking lot, and We are talking about an area in the downtown that we put out for an RFP some 4 years ago, 79-54. We got a response from Lansing Melbourne Group principal manager Peter Floats, who's with us this evening. Over the last few years, we've wrestled with how to develop the site. We came to a proposal that we put before you last spring, or this summer rather, to develop the parking lot into apartments. Essentially, here is where we landed. This is just a visual of what we would be looking at. This would be if you were coming off of Walnut Street or the Oval. This would be one view. Here's another view if you were actually on High Street and looking at it from High Street. This would be essentially from the High Street garage. The transaction that was originally contemplated was a master developer agreement where we would sell the parcel. If you recall back this summer, we wrestled with the idea of how we might be able to preserve some parking. That led to a conversation that brought us to a TIF. We subsequently approved a TIF for this area, and that allowed us to change the deal where we would be able to preserve the parking on the first floor and allow for the air rights above the parking lot to be developed. So the fundamentals of the deal have not changed this, except for where we changed it from being a fee interest to a lease. But otherwise, it's still pretty much the same. I'll quickly run through them. So it's a 99-year lease at a $900,000 selling lease rights price, 144 apartments, so slightly down from the original figure we were looking at. City would still transfer $100,000 to offset some infrastructure costs, streetscaping, particularly on School Street, where we would be looking to add some parking spaces, 20 or 30 parking spaces in and around the street area. The parking itself will utilize the High Street garage, and that, up to 150 parking spaces would be set aside and available for rent. First 10 years would be at $50 per space per month. That would be about $90,000 a year if all spaces were utilized. Finally, the original development agreement contemplated a closing or execution type timeframe of May. We pushed it out to the end of June 30th, because of the lag of getting this amendment in order. It does allow for the TIF to create the public parking on the first floor as we contemplated for $2.5 million. It caps it, so the city's obligation would stay at just the $2.5 million. And then the developer would draw down upon that money through certain intervals as construction proceeded. Otherwise, the agreement pretty much stays the same from there. And the amendment that is in front of you is a redline copy of the original MDA that basically contemplates everything that I just showed you in my slide. And that's all I have this evening. I would ask that you favorably approve this legislation to move this project on. I know the developer, Peter Floats, here with us this evening, would really like to try to get this project underway for hopefully the end of this spring season, this early summer, if possible. Thank you. And I think the mayor wanted to say a few words.
Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, first I want to thank Tim Cummings for all the work he's done on this over a long period of time. As you know, this has been before the committee for some time, and we first put this out for potential development several years back, and Tim has followed it all the way through and has negotiated a deal which I think is very favorable to both the builder and to the city. As the purpose, of course, the underlying purpose is to help us build a stronger downtown economy, increase our tax base downtown, increase tax revenues, and of course, right now, help our small businesses and their employees with customers who would reside in these apartments. I will always remember the sacrifices that they have made during the course of this pandemic. So this project, although started before the pandemic, really fits our objectives very well. I just hope the committee will approve this. I think we realize lease price and revenue coming from parking. Again, we will have between 150 and 300 downtown residents, which we don't have now, block from Main Street. And of course, we've all talked about the objective of trying to repopulate the central business district, and this is a big step in that direction. So again, I just would ask the committee to approve the agreement so that we can go forward and begin the project.
Okay. Questions from the committee members? Alderman O'Brien, then Alderman Wilshire.
Thank you. I am definitely going to support this. And I'm sure if Mr. Cummings remembers, we had several conversations on this, and particularly with some of the people. But I think, historically looking back, School Street was a residential neighborhood at one time. And it'll be good to have that. I think it will help the local businesses and everything. So I would like to welcome Mr. Flutz and thank you for investing into our city. I think you're going to enjoy, Nashua is a great place, and I think you're really going to enjoy, coming up here and everything. So again, thank you, sir.
Much appreciated. We hope it's the first of many.
Alderman Wilshire.
Thank you. I agree with what Alderman O'Brien just said. Welcome, and thank you for investing in our city. We've addressed the parking issues somewhat with the neighbors on School Street. Yes. I don't remember what the final outcome was.
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
So we have continued having active conversations with the abutters, and what is currently being contemplated and what you'll see, I think, in the next Board of Aldermen meeting is a legislation for harbor homes to have the right, if they so desire, within the next year or two, to enter into a lease agreement with the city of Nashua for the daytime use of the parking lot that is beside the High Street garage. And they would like to use that during the day, or they'd like to know that they have the ability to use 15 spaces in that parking lot during daytime hours. So we're working through those details now, but that's very much something that I've committed to continue to work on with them. And I think that you'll see that legislation probably coming soon. Then in addition to that, I've continued to work with the other abutter of the casino. And there's a idea or thought process maybe of building a parking lot, within the downtown in close proximity, if necessary. This would be borne by the casino itself, or at least that's how it's been articulated to me thus far. I'm still trying to understand some of the nuanced details of it. It's very early in its conversation, but it's something that they're looking forward to, and I've committed to continue working with them to see if we could develop a proposal that we could bring before you. And then lastly, working with DPW will add 20 to 30 additional parking spaces on the street in and around the downtown area where this development would occur. A combination of all those measures, I think, has satisfied all the neighbors.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
All
And
said,
of course,
Alderman
and of
Wilshire.
course, we adjusted the design to retain parking on the surface level,
Mhm.
public parking. So that
Right.
was a big step to satisfying the concerns of the nearby river sports bar and casino.
Thank you. Appreciate
Okay.
that.
I have Alderman Jettie and then Alderman Clee. Alderman Jettie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. When this had come before us, before I had asked, several questions about the parking issue, and I don't see that anything, has changed in this agreement, I'm specifically talking about the rental of parking spaces in the High Street garage. My, I think, the agreement calls for the developer leasing 150 spaces at the rate of, I think it was $50. I think it starts at 0 and it increases to $50 over a 2-year period. And then it remains at $50 a space for 10 years. And then if the going rate is increased after 10 years, then it would be adjusted. It's 10 years, seems like a long time to be for the city to be locked into that $50 a month parking rate, which I don't know if that's I would defer to you, Mr. Cummings, about that. I know you've spoken to the infrastructure committee many times about parking rates in Nashville being lower than other cities and that they should be increased. And so I'm wondering what your thoughts would be on that.
Sure. Should I answer that now?
That's up to the chairman. I've got some other questions, but
All right,
Chairman.
why don't we handle that one first, Tim. Go ahead.
okay.
So I completely agree with you, Alderman Jettie. I knew that this was coming down the pike. That's the reason why I put some legislation before you a couple of years ago. Ultimately, it was decided that, a parking study was necessary before we moved forward. At this point in time, we have to do what's equitable, and the $50 is what's fair, because that's what we've charged everyone to date, and it's what we've been charging since 2002. And so I foresee us coming before you in a couple of years. I don't know when, probably to raise this issue again. But this is just what I have to work with at this time. And I don't think it would be fair for us to unilaterally single out one development and lock them in at a higher rate than what we would be charging the general public.
Okay, may I follow up?
Follow-up question, Alderman Jettie?
Yeah, so, without locking, this developer into a higher than what we're charging everybody else, why would we lock the city into a lower than what we're charging everybody else? If we increase the rates as a result of this parking study, which will be finished in a few months, or maybe that's just the overnight thing, but within a year or so, if we determine that the rate should be higher, why wouldn't it be fair for the developer just to agree to pay whatever the going rate is?
Because it's a what if conversation right now. I don't know if we actually will increase the permits. That has not been decided upon by this body. I don't know if it ever will be. And so that's why.
So I still don't understand why the developer wouldn't be charged whatever everyone else is being charged. Why would he get locked into whatever the rate is today for 10 years while, other people leasing the same, places in the same garage would be paying higher?
Okay. Another question, Alderman Jettie?
It was, but I guess I'm not going to get an answer.
Were you looking for the developer because he's raising his hand?
Yes,
Director Cummings?
I understand the question. It's a philosophical one. And, at the end of the day, this is the deal that was struck. To some degree, I am very sympathetic to the issue at hand, but this is essentially what we were able to work out. And, it's a give and take. This was a multi-variable negotiation with a lot of moving parts, and this is just one element to it that all the puzzle pieces need to fit together to make it work. So that's how we got to where we are on this issue.
So in previous meetings, I had brought this up. In previous meetings, you stated that it would be subject to negotiation and you would talk to the developer. You've not said that you have talked to the developer and that the developer, is not willing to do that. So if
Mr.
the
Flood?
chairman is willing to recognize the developer, maybe we could hear from him.
I just recognized him.
I'm glad you recognized me. I've been here enough times now, so so Alderman, I would tell you this. The most important thing for us, if we're going to be the first new residential building in downtown in some period of time, I can't tell you what that is. I'd love to do the research. But I'm guessing it's a long, long time, probably since I've been alive on this earth. We have certain challenges, and one of those challenges is we're not competing fairly with people who have converted mills nearby and the like, who have surface parking lots, who have parking available to them. We're building out to the property lines because that was what was specified in the request for proposals, was to fill this lot with taxable property. And so that's what we've done. Our only opportunity to park is across the street. And unlike anyone else, we are paying a fee in lieu for parking. So we're paying the city thousands and thousands of dollars for each one of those spaces, and we're paying for them on a monthly basis. So I would say to you, if you'd prefer that we pay market, happy to do it, but then let's talk about not paying the fee in lieu, because then I'm paying for nothing. So at this point, I'm paying an admittance fee and I'm being charged the monthly membership fee. So it's a country club that I can't afford to belong to, but I have to because it's the only place I can get the parking. I would urge you, when you're doing your parking study, by the way, to really focus on daytime and really focus on on-street parking, because that's where your revenue is going to come from. If you try to get it from residential users overnight, my fear is I'll be the first and I'll be the last. And it's really, if what you want to do is populate your downtown, we have to give people someplace to put their cars, whether they're gas or electric, we still have to put them somewhere. So that's my comment. Thank you for recognizing me.
You're welcome. Alderman Jettie,
And-
anything else?
And if I could just follow on, I just want to clarify, I did raise this issue with the developer.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's I appreciate the answer from both of you, from the developer and from you, Mr. Cummings. I think that answers that question. My next question regards the parking that is going to be located underneath this building. I don't see anything in the revised agreement that shows what it's going to look like. I didn't see any plans attached that would that cover the parking area. Are there, do they exist? Did I just miss it, or has it just not been given to us yet, or what is the situation there?
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. When we got the TIF approved, it was part of the package that and the legislation that approved the TIF. And so if you were to refer to that legislation, there was an accompanying document that had an attachment that showed a conceptual site plan with the covered parking.
Okay, yeah. So I didn't see it in attached to tonight's agenda, and I forgot that that had been previously provided, so I'll go look at that. And you know, this brings up a question. This is going to be public parking, and it's designed to satisfy the objections of abutters. You know that, you know, I'm specifically thinking of the River Casino, who pretty much fills up that parking lot now at night. And so, you know, they're going to lose that. This is supposed to replace that. But how are you going to keep, how are you going to keep it public? How are you going to keep, you know, the residents of the building are part of the public as well. How are you going to keep them out of it? Or are you not even going to try? Is it going to be available to everyone, including the residents of the building?
So if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, Director Cummings.
So that is a management issue that we will work with the property manager on, in terms of making sure that the property manager knows that they should be directing their people to the leased parking spaces, which would be in the High Street garage. That would be public parking on the ground level, and it would not ever be leased, and it would be under our certain zone. I don't know which zoning district it would be in. I'm going to say off the top of my head 2 at the moment, and it would be metered or have some sort of pay station where you would have to pay for the spaces, or otherwise you'd receive a parking citation. But you'd never be able to lease those spaces.
Okay.
Similar to how you're never able to lease the first floor of the High Street garage or the Elm Street garage now.
Okay. And my last question is, maybe this should be directed to the developer. I notice in section 1.11, part of the recitation of what the city is doing for the developer is that it's providing the pleasure of working with Director Cummings and Attorney Leonard. I've never seen that language in an agreement. And I don't know if that was just put there to see whether or not I would read this thoroughly or not. Or did Director Cummings put that in there? I don't know.
I can assure you I did not put that in there.
And I will hide behind the same defense.
I can attest that it's very nice working with Attorney Leonard day to day.
So I guess she's the one to put that in there. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Alderman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cummings, Director Cummings, the 50 spaces that you said are going to be there, do we lose any spaces, or do we have 50 and we're still going to have 50?
No, this is going to be approximate reduction of about 30 spaces. I want to say we have about 80 in the School Street lot now. We'll have about 50 in the School Street lot when all said and done. But that's why it's important that we create that additional 20 to 30 on-street parking in and around the development.
Yes, and I agree with that, and I appreciated that. That's what I figured that those 30 spaces were from. Mr. Chair, may I ask another question, please?
Yes, go ahead, Alderman Clee.
Thank you. Thank you. Again, the pay parking, I did have one of the same concerns that Alderman Jettie had about the residents parking in the surface lot there, even though that they have leased space and so on. If it's a rainy day and they don't feel like walking far, after 7 meters and the pay stations would stop. Is that correct?
Director Cummings?
It depends on the zone that you're in, but yes. And that's why when it's built and we actually figure out how we want to manage it, we're probably going to have to put some language in that's may call out this specific lot for that very reason.
Okay, so the just a quick follow-up on it. So more than likely the residents would have some kind of sticker that would allow them to park in the other lot that might be a way of also of identifying them. Would that be correct?
They will have a permit that would allow them to park in the High Street garage.
Okay, so it would probably be some type of sticker. I'm just trying to say is how management would identify that those cars shouldn't be there because they have a permit. I'm just talking this out for the public to hear, because I know that the manager of the River Casino is one of my constituents, and this has been one of his issues, as you know, and I just wanted to kind of rest assured that we're going to be doing everything we can. And I see that Mr. Floats has his hand up, Chairman Dowd.
Yes, Mr. Floats, would you answer?
Thank you, Chairman. I think I just want to clarify something. Our residential manager, my intent at this point, at least, unless you all have a desire to tell me something different, and then we'll certainly consider it. But our residential manager would have nothing to do with the operation of the parking. This is clearly a public parking area that is owned by the city. If at your pleasure in the future, you decide that you would like to earn revenue and lease spaces to our residents, let us know. But our planning right now is that we're specifically going into our pocket and paying a fee for access to the High Street garage to the city. We're paying a monthly fee that should cover your operational cost for those. We appreciate the fact that you're willing to ramp that up so that we can get our residents in and kind of get the ball rolling here. But we're not going to tell people whether they can park downstairs or not. We don't face that part of the building. I'm sorry, we don't have detailed design drawings up. They're about done. But in fact, there is a concrete wall between the lobby of the building and the amenity areas and the parking area, and never the twain shall meet. There is a fire door so that people don't, have access back and forth through there. And the part of the pleasure of working with Councilor Leonard was that there's easements already and all of that. But it's a city parking deck. So you have the ability, Alderman Klee, to manage that any way you want to. It's your spaces. You hold the deed to it. We don't. There are doors that face School Street. There are doors that face High Street. So the public can come into it from both ways. It's easy access. It'll be warm this time of year. It'll be well lit. It'll be the nicest place to park in the city. And it'll be clean. That's for sure, because we won't let it, whether or not we're in charge of it, we won't let it be anything other than clean. So again, I just want to make sure you understand there's a separation there on purpose by design. And that's how we're facing it. If you tell us something different, we'll certainly listen. But right now, it's important to us to have the public perceive the fact that that is a public parking area. It is not ours. And we'll make sure our residents know there's your parking space across the street. It won't be obvious to them that you can park inside the building. It's completely separate. And I'm sorry we don't have an illustration for you, but it would be obvious if we did.
Mr. Chairman, may I just
Follow
make
up,
one more
Alderman
comment?
Klee.
Thank you so much. Mr. Floats, I wasn't trying to assume that your staff or your management would be monitoring. When I was speaking to Director Cummings, I was thinking more of his parking enforcement staff and so on. I wasn't trying to put that on yours. I was just hoping that your residents would be educated enough to know, please don't park there. Yes, you're part of the public and therefore, but how we would be able to identify your vehicles versus the rest of the public and so on. But all my questions have been answered. I appreciate that. Thank you.
And if could I just follow on quickly, Mr. Chairman, and I believe
Sure.
Alderwoman
Director Cummings.
Thank you. And I know Alderwoman Schmidt wants to say something, but I just wanted to just make sure it's very clear. It is my intention, and unless you instruct me otherwise, I'm going to make it very clear that that is public parking, and we expect the public patrons of the downtown to use that parking area, and it will be managed in that way, and parking enforcement will be looking to enforce the parking so we get the results that we want.
Yes, Alderman Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's exactly what I was thinking of. The people in Ward 1, they want to come downtown. They don't like going upstairs into the parking garage. If they went into some place that was safe and warm and protected right on the ground level, it would be even better than the open parking that was there previously. And this is a really good solution. I know we pushed hard for parking in there, and I'm so grateful that you've been able to figure out a way to do this, because that part of town really could use people from Ward 1 coming down to shop and go to dinner. And thank you very much for thinking of that part of this, and also for more housing downtown. It's absolutely essential. And thank you very much.
Any other questions from committee members? One thing, it is a public parking lot. I don't know how we could restrict the people that are living in the building from parking there, but it would be more costly for them to do that. But they're members of the public as well, and taxpayers, either directly or indirectly. I can tell you, because pre-pandemic, I parked on School Street a lot, almost every day, or at least 2 or 3 times a week. And during the day, that lot was pretty empty. At night, even at night, I don't remember any time going to the arena that the lot was completely full. So I don't think we're going to have a problem. And the only other thing I want to clear up for the record and for the public is that I'm going to go out on a limb here, Director Cummings, but the maintenance and upkeep of that garage will belong to the city. Is that correct? Or are we sharing that? Okay, so it would be the responsibility of the city. And
That's correct. That's correct,
okay.
Mr. Chairman.
So anything over and above that the developer wants to help us with is a plus in my regard. So any other questions? Oh, yes, Mr. Floutz, did you want to mention anything?
Oh, no. I was
Okay.
thanking you.
Any other questions? All right, would the clerk please call a roll?
Okay, we'll be voting on to amend R 20-28 as presented by Attorney Leonard by roll call. Alderman Schmidt,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie,
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien votes yes. Alderman Dowd.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman, 5 yeas, 0 nays.
motion carries. Next motion, Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion to recommend final passage as amended by roll call.
Okay, the motion on the floor now is for final passage of R 20-028 by roll call. Is there any additional questions or concerns? Seeing none, would you please call a roll?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Alderman Schmidt,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie,
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien votes yes. Alderman Dowd.
Yes,
Mr. Chairman, that's 5 yeas, 0 nays.
motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is general discussion. Anyone? No? All right, public comment. Is there anybody, members of the public, that would like to speak? Seeing and hearing none, move on. Remarks by Alderman. Alderman Clee.
I'll make it real quick. I just wanted to thank Director Cummings for all his work on this project. You took everybody's opinion into consideration, and you worked it to death till you finally came up. And I believe he's gone, but I'd also like to thank Mr. Floutz for agreeing to this, and the give and take between the two of you has just been outstanding. And I know Director Cummings, you've worked hard to make the neighbors happy. So thank you so much. I appreciate that. And also, I got great feedback from your parking study town hall for Ward 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So anyone else? I just want to say it was my second day visiting the vaccine site and thing that is working amazingly efficiently. And I got my vaccine today. My former wife got hers yesterday. But it's working really well. And I just wanted to commend the members of the National Fire Rescue who are assisting with traffic and questioning and things, as well as the National Guard. And that I don't think it could run any smoother than it's running. They've got it down to a science. And I would, if you're going there to get your vaccine, that you need to ensure that you've answered the questions online with the CDC VAMS site. Otherwise, it takes a few more minutes for you to go through all the questions and answer them manually in the parking lot. So if you want to go through more quickly, answer the questions in advance and you'll be all set. But again, I don't think it could be any more efficient and effective than it is. So, and Mayor, if you want to pass that along to Director Bagley and let her know that that's working great. I don't know who's giving the actual shots. They're all nurses, but they're in civilian clothes. So I don't know who exactly they belong to, but it doesn't hurt.
Mr. Chair, the hospitals are providing the staffing for that.
Excellent, excellent.
My husband's was through the National Guard.
Yeah, and they also give you a card that tells you the exact date. It tells you what vaccine you have and what date you go back for your second shot. And unless you want that changed, you're all set. Okay, anything else? All right. We do not need a non-public. Alderman O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make a motion to adjourn by roll call.
Motion is to adjourn by roll call. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alderman Schmidt,
Yes.
Alderman Jettie,
Yes.
Alderman Wilshire,
Yes.
Alderman O'Brien votes yes, Alderman Dowd.
Yes.
That's 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries. We're adjourned at 7:47 PM. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everybody.